Welcome, Team Wilpers Run Challenge crew. My name is Justin Harris. I'm one of the coaches at Team Wilpers, and welcome to our athlete briefing number 7 for the Summer Run Challenge 2025. The whole purpose of this run challenge is to be short, efficient, effective. Summertime is busy and crazy, and vacations, getting kids to camp, kids are home, all these different things. Myself, I'm just getting back from vacation, and it's a great time to hit the reset button. And, for some of us, we don't have a big fall race happening, and so we're maintaining training. Some of us have a big race, whether it's a 5K, half, or full. And the big focus here for this challenge has been speed, all right? And even in the marathon builds, all of our coaches use VO2 max and neuromuscular work and different types of speed, whether they're striders or neuromuscular leg speed or short hills, or even VO2 max intervals, which we use very often. So anyway, this is supposed to be short and efficient. This is our challenges here are designed to help you provide a little bit of structure in your life and to help you train smarter, not harder. Okay, so at the end of the day here, this is really set up to kind of get you through things and to help you. If you need, more specific training or questions, find us on our Facebook group at Team Wilpers Running. Make sure you're following us on Facebook and Instagram at Team Wilpers. You can follow me, Jay Harris Coaching, on Instagram and Facebook. I use Instagram a lot more. But there you can ask questions to help fill in the gaps that the challenge doesn't fill in. You can also find our consultations or one-on-one coaching to really help you dial those things in. So anyway, let's get to business here. All right, week number 7. All right, the week ahead. What do we have going on? And what we have going on, I call it rinse and repeat. All right, in my one-on-one training and a lot of our coaches, we do try to keep it dynamic and fun and interesting. However, at the end of the day, there's certain things that we're going to have to repeat. All right, and in certain training blocks, we're in block 2 where we're trying to pick up things. All right, but this is a rinse and repeat block. This is an opportunity, rinse and repeat week. This is an opportunity to really practice what we've put in there for training, all right, from the strength side from Ava, all right, and from the run side for myself. It's all in there to rinse and repeat and to gain learning, okay? So you're going to see all the similar pieces before week number 8. We're going to test on Saturday, all right, the 20-minute test. If you haven't done the 20-minute test to start this block, we're going to want to end that way. And it's a great opportunity to kind of lace up the shoes, mock put the race bib on and light them up, all right? It's summertime. Let's freaking run fast. I'm being politically correct or not using curse words. But let's fly. Let's do it. All right. So that's week number 8. So week number 7, you're going to see all the same stuff. All right. Over-unders are still going to be a little bit challenging. It's going to be the same as last week. And we're going to have similar structure here. All right. There's not too much to talk about on anything new. All right, if you've been doing this challenge or the previous challenge with me, you're going to see similar pieces, all right? And so less is more, all right? And we're going to talk about in this athlete briefing about consistency, all right? And so when we rinse and repeat, there's an aspect about consistency. And as I say, it's like consistency kills, all right? This is what allows you to see your gains and your progress and all that fun stuff. So I want to get into consistency. So the Japanese have this phrase that it's like the river that always runs cuts deeper. And the idea is that, when the water is always flowing, all right, a long-standing river is like way more curvy. All right, that tells you how old it is. All right, and that's when you're going to see like canyons and deeper stuff. And that's the same thing with our training. Right? The longer we're training, the longer we're stacking pieces together, we end up building something where we're chiseling through, down to like the masterpiece that we're kind of trying to create. When I talk about coaching, it's like, I have the athlete or client, and it's a block of marble and I'm chipping away at it, trying to make a masterpiece here, and we're trying to chip away, like get down to the basics, the good technique, the stuff that's going to, yield results, right? And sometimes I say as athletes start like taking off pieces I chipped on and put it back on when we're doing extra or more or whatever that is. And that's a you problem, that's not a me problem. All right, so you want to think through those things, but consistency is what kills. So if we think about like areas that like flash flood or something like that, like it does a lot of damage, like pretty viciously, and it leaves a lot of debris and all this stuff, and it's not really what we want to do in this like feast or famine, like we're going to do a ton of stuff, and then down here we're just kind of not doing anything. This is why like diet fads, training fads, they don't work. Whatever you pick and you're consistent at, you're going to see results. All right, and it comes all the way down to this idea, and walk through this, come on this train with me in this journey. And because I'm going to talk about something a little bit different, and I'll bring it back around, but I'm reading this book by Simon Sinek. He's like, talks to corporations, and he's like kind of a thought provocateur about different stuff. And I'm reading this book called The Infinite Games. And it really is based on a book by James Carsey, who is an NYU professor, and wrote this book called Finite and Infinite Games. And so it's this idea of like, a finite game is like, think of like a soccer game, right? Like we have set rules, there's a start, middle, and end, all right? And an infinite game is like there's no beginning, middle, really, or end. It's something that we continuous play, all right? So if we think of finite games as like, kind of like the race we end up signing up for, or the challenge that we're doing, right? It's like choosing to sign up for a race is finite, right? But getting in shape or training to perform is really the infinite game, okay? So whereas a finite game we play to win, and I'm going to say win, right? There's wins in a lot of different ways. We want a PR. We want to run further than we've ever run before. We want to run smoother. We want to enjoy that. There's a million ways that we can win, not just getting on the podium, right? But when we play a finite game, we're certainly not there to lose. No one here, wants to run slower, wants to do worse than the last challenge or last year, or what we did 10 years ago. And there's a certain point in our trajectory of life where, there's a lot of growth, and then we're maintaining, and then there's a period of our life, in our, 60s and stuff, where performance-wise, and maybe even 50s, where we start to deteriorate, right? But that doesn't mean it should be over, all right? If we're playing the finite game, it's like, I'll give myself an example. I will never run 14:42 for 5K ever again, like ever. It's not going to happen. I ran that when I was in my early 20s. It's not going to happen again, right? So do I not run 5Ks and get pissed off every time I don't PR, right? That's us playing the finite game, right? So we're certainly, when we play a game, we're not there to lose, right? And so we understand those things. But in the infinite game, this is the game we, want to keep playing, all right? And if we really look at training as the way to, like kind of work through like moving from a finite game and making this an infinite game. So, it could be like seen as like, a finite game is like all the battles, but the infinite game is like, the collection of the battles, and it's really the war. It's not a great example because we don't want to be there, but you can see it as like finite games is a little piece of what we do here, where the infinite game is the much broader thing. This is what Matt is constantly talking about, to train smarter and not harder. This is what we're talking about, is let's keep playing the game. Let's not, take a short-term narrative or goal and make it come at the expense of, getting to the marathon healthy, or, being consistent. So let's talk about consistency. So the number one kind of issue I see with consistency is that means, well, I got to train every day. Well, I've had multiple people come to me that haven't taken a day off in 2 years, and you end up stagnating and then regressing. So it does not work. All right. Now in Peloton, we can get, that dot, and we have that streak, and yeah, it's there to gamify, and it works for a lot of people to get into habits, right? But then it comes to a point where we can be too consistent, where it's really not helping us, and we're getting addicted to just some arbitrary, the finite thing of like winning this game. And really, like, the irony is like you don't end up winning, you end up losing because you get hurt because you're trying to keep the thing going. So what happens when you get sick? Do you keep training? Well, as they say, is if it's like above the neck, like, sinusy stuff like that, like you should back off and take it day by day. But if it's anything down in here, like coughing, chest, and different stuff, like you really should, if in the chest, rest, right? So there's these times that really we should, back off, right? And it's one of these things. If I was consistent and I thought it was like training every day, then when I got sick, I still have to train. Well, guess what happens when you train when you're sick? Then you make it even worse. So instead of like being off for a couple days, like say 3 days, now we're like really sick for like 4, and then it takes us another. So it turns into a week. So are we being consistent? No. So if I would have taken a day off and taking care of myself, maybe get a little extra sleep, maybe get to, like hydrate a little bit better, maybe slam some vitamin C or zinc or vitamin D, or, like there's a million things you can do, or just relax, just not incur more damage to your body. It could be a beautiful thing where, okay, I took 1 day, but then I was able to get back, 2 days later or 3 days later, instead of like having to take a week. And so that ends up helping us be consistent in the long run. So it's kind of like turning off the faucet. Like we don't have to, sometimes we have to turn off the faucet to like store the water and then, use it. Anyway, bad example. So this idea of like finite and infinite games, I'm trying to constantly get my clients like, well, like, I'm not happy. Why? Well, because I wanted a PR. Well, the course has 400 feet of elevation more in a 5K than the last 5K. So you're not going to PR, right? So it's playing these finite games that often get us like kind of just a little bit of the way there. And it's a strategy that works to get us going, but it doesn't keep us going. All right. And so that's something to think about there. And what we're trying to do, all of our coaches here, is help our athletes, stay in the game longer, be healthier, and these challenges are set up to help you do that. But really it's, like, some of you train on your own, here or there, but a lot of you have Matt or other Peloton instructors in your ear because you have experts helping coach you through the thing. So if you're bashing your head against the wall and like you're always having hamstring issues or plantar fasciitis or knee stuff or hobbling around or whatever, like you're probably doing a little too much, and coaches at Team Wilpers can help you with that. So the concept here is that it's really about process is better or greater than the outcome, meaning like enjoy the journey, all right, is the biggest thing. Like the process, like just chop wood, carry water, like just keep going with these things, and you're going to end up doing a better job than just focusing solely on the outcome. Now, there's a dichotomy here. There's a dualistic nature here, is like in the infinite game, it doesn't, like, we're there to grow and learn and constantly do it. Like if we really stink at it and we're not having fun with it, then we're probably going to lose, not want to play the game anymore, right? So we have to find ways to like, commit to the process and to enjoy the journey and have fun with this all, right? And so in the challenge, I know there's some repetition here, but really the fun part I'm trying to get you guys all to understand, you all, is that this is really like each training day is like a tool in the toolbox. And so after many weeks of doing it, like hopefully you can put that tool in the toolbox and know when to use it and when not to use it is probably the best way to do it. So think of this as the long game, and consistency is what helps you get there. All right. So, so week 7 is about rinsing and repeating. It's about being consistent. It's about chopping wood and carrying water. It's about, the river that always flows cuts deeper. It's all these things. It's about focusing on the process, right? And so the only way that you can get better at something is that if you practice it, right? So our training, our 20-minute test, this is all practice. And as Allen Iverson once said, you talking about practice? Yeah, we're talking about practice. That's all this is. Till you put a race bib on, this is all just practice. And it might be practice for life. It might be practicing how to be calm, how to, get out of your own head, move your feet, get outside, be consistent training, whatever it is, like whatever goals you have. You really need to look at the difference between, are you playing this to win or to not lose? Or are you really playing this game to keep playing? And we're more about, making sure we're not losing sight of the latter while keeping the former, making sure it's integrated in, certainly in these challenges and certainly on our consultations and one-on-one coaching. So with all that said, focus on the process, be consistent. Being consistent doesn't mean training every single day. It means listening to your body and training smarter. And sometimes if you take one day off, even if it's in a key session, it's going to set you up for more success. And that's probably the number one thing that we all face. The top two things is asking our clients to go a little bit slower so they can absorb all the training. And then at least I'll speak for myself, I just had it today. A client's like, hey, I'm not feeling great. What do you think? I'm like, take off. Like, you're sick, right? And they might be sick for 2 days, and then we can kind of slowly work our way back into it versus keep training. And now it's, like I said, 6 or 7 days, like really sick. And then, it's not good. So anyway, be consistent, but be conscious of what you're doing. All right. And think about the long game, the infinite game, the game that we don't want to stop playing. I want all of you, and Matt wants all of you and all our coaches at Team Wilpers. We want you doing this later in life, right? We don't want you to have knee replacements and stuff like that. We don't want you to have bad habits where it'll get you to this level, but then it's going to keep you at this level and you're not going to be able to get up here. So think the long game, think the infinite game, and consistency is what kills. So keep chipping away at all this stuff. You never know when it's going to make sense to you. You never know when your body's going to embody it and feel it, and all of a sudden clicking off better paces. And certainly, in warm weather, it kind of masks all the fitness you're making. Get that one cool morning like we've had here, and all of a sudden you're running way faster without even trying. That means you're getting better, right? So anyway, I will check in with you. And let's see. Hello, Esther. Hey, Dana. All right. Hello, everyone. Yeah, letting go of closing rings and blue dots is the hardest, most valuable lesson I ever had. Yeah, right. Like, it's what got you to the dance, but it's not going to keep you at the dance. And this is like... I mean, with everything in life, like the skills we learned when we were younger or beginners to get there is often not the skills to move you on to intermediate and then to expert and then to elite, whatever domain we are. Sometimes we have to unlearn these things. So that's a great point. Yeah. And some of these things is like, you don't have to go out and do a hard workout all the time. You can stretch, you can do meditation, mobility, just have a moment to yourself. That's where being consistent is. Sometimes I'll just go for a walk in the woods and that's my training, right? Or I'll go walk the dog with my wife, or, whatever it is. Like, sometimes we need to back off and do some stuff for ourselves. So with all that said, you all enjoy the rest of week number 6. Week number 7 is rinse and repeat. Really engage with what you're doing there. Really think deeply about what you're doing, and then just let it happen, right? And flow with it and be consistent, though. All right. And then week number 8, we're going to have some testing and assessments, the 20-minute test, and we'll go from there. So I'll see you all later. I hope you all have fun and enjoy the rest of your weekend and enjoying week number 7. Make sure you're following us on Team Wilpers running Facebook group. Join, I'll let you in and interact. How are things going? What questions do you have? What concerns pop up? Ask whatever questions were that are on your mind. You can also tag us with your training, Team Wilpers and JR's coaching. And let's show other people what cool stuff you're doing and what you're learning and what your big takeaways are, or what lessons that are popping up for you. So see you all later.